A very good evening, Dhamma friends. Welcome back to online Pali reading class, day 72. We are going to get
Good evening, Bhante.
yes, we are going to get started our class by respecting the Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. In our studying the Dhammapadas, the chapter on flowers, we have come down to a series of stanzas about flowers, but they are not flowers themselves. They are discussing certain other ethical, moral concepts about life, samsara, nibbana, our daily life, how to keep our kalyana mitras. So flowers have given us so many contexts to think about in our life. And today, as you can see, we are going to discuss the stanza number 48. Actually, although I say the number, but we have to look at every stanza from a very new, fresh perspective. Sometimes I think this book is not the whole book, Dhammapada is not a new book to all of you. You may have seen this book 20 years before, weren't you? You might have read this book 20 years ago. But when you look at the same stanza again after 20 years, what do you think? Don't you get new insights? You do. Even if you watch, especially Dhammapada. Because Dhammapada is not a book that we have to read very fast, like how people read an article. Dhammapada is a book of life. So then, the more we live, the more experiences, the more understanding about life will come to us through the understanding of Dhammapada's stanzas. So I think I just wanted to say that it's a book, I would say, place of teachings where we have to take time and read. But here what we are doing is that we are looking at the context as well as I'm observing the chanting part too. Okay, so let's take a look. We are today conducting day 72. It's been a long time. And then Dhammapada 48. The first two lines are pretty similar to the previous day. You can see they are pretty similar. They are not different. That means the Buddha wanted to say something using the same first two lines. You can see. But the last two lines are different. They are not talking about something like Vidudaba story. Vidudaba, what happened to Vidudaba and what is happening to someone called Patipujika. This is Patipujika Kumari. That's a very interesting story that we have to learn today and how to incorporate that story into our life. Okay, let's take a look and then read. Uppani heva pachinam vyasat manasang naram atitang yeva kamisu antako kurute vasam. Uppani heva pachinanta vyasat manasang naram atitang yeva kamisu antako kurute vasam. Okay, so at this point onwards, I'm asking groups to read. So first of all, someone from group 1. So please raise your virtual hand. Yes, Melin, please.
Bhante.
Yes.
Pupani hewa pachinatam. Biasata manasang narang. Atitang yewa kamesu. Antako kurute wasang.
Great.
Thank you, Bhante.
And then group 2. Yeah. Please, Melin. Yes.
Pupani hewa pachinatam. Biasata manasam naram. Atitam yawa kamesu. Antako kurute wasam.
Okay, great. And group 3. Someone from group 3. Yes, Jenny, please. Oh, there were a lot.
Good evening, Bhante.
Yes, could you please?
Pupani hewa pachinantang. Biasata manasang narang. Atitang yewa ka mesu. Antako kurute wasang.
Great.
Thank
And
you.
group 4. Someone from group 4. Yeah, check, please.
Evening, Bhante.
Evening.
Pupani heva pachinantang. Biasata manasang narang. Atitang yeva kamesu. Antako kurute vasang.
Great.
Thank you, Bhante.
Group 5. Melinda, please.
Thank you, Bhante. Pupani hewa pachinatam. Biasata manasan naran. Atitam yewa kamesu. Antako kurite wasam.
Great.
Thank
And
you.
group 6. Samniri.
Sukhihoto Bhante.
Suki.
Upani hewa pachinantang. Biasata manasang narang. Atitang yewa kamesu. Antako kurute wasang.
Great.
Thank you.
And group 7. Group 7. Symphony. Sorry.
Upani hewa pachinantam. Biasatam manasam naram. Adidam yeva kamesu. Antako kurate wasam.
Would you mind reading the third line again?
Atitam yeva kamesu.
Yeah, great. And group 8. Yes, Doris.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
Pupani heva pachinantang. Biasata manasam narang. Atitam yeva kamesu. Antako kurute vasang.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bhante.
Now we are going to ask others in general. First of all, I saw Chupeng and Paripurna already wanted to say. Maybe we can ask from Chupeng and then Paripurna and the rest. Yes, Chupeng, please.
Good evening, Bhante.
Yes, good evening.
Pupani hewa pachinantang. Biasata manasang narang. Atitang yewa kamesu. Antako kurute wasang.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bhante.
And Paripurna. Yes,
Good evening, Bhante.
good evening.
Pupani hewa pachinantam. Biasata manasanam naram. Atitam yewa kamesu. Antako kurute vasam.
Okay, great. And we will ask Ochu Wong.
Good evening, Bhante. Thank
Yes, good
you.
evening.
Upani eva pachinantang. Biasata manasang naram. Atitang yeva kamesu. Antako kurete vasang.
Antako.
Antako. Is it? Antako.
Antako, and then
Antako kurute wasang.
kurute. Kurute was
Kurute wasang.
great.
Confirm your speaking
And
English. Okay.
we go on. Yes.
As I said.
Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
Good evening, Bhante.
Good evening.
Upani heva pacinantang biasata manasang narang atitang yeva kamesu antako kurute wasang.
Great.
Thank you,
Then,
Bhante.
Lisa.
Thank you, Bhante. Pupani heva pachinantam biasata manasam naram atitam yeva kamesu antako kurute vasam.
Great.
Thank you.
And TC.
Thank you. Upani hewa pachinantang biasuta manusam naram biasata manasam naram atitang yewa kamesu antako kurete vasam. Antako kurute wasam.
Kurute wasam.
Kurute wasam.
Kurute wasam. Yes. And then
Thank you.
Margaret. Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
Upani heva pacinatam bya sata manasam naram atitam yeva kamesu antako kurute vasam.
Great.
Thank
And
you.
Emma. Emma, can you unmute? Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. Yeah.
Good evening, Bhante.
Good evening.
Pupani hewa pacinatam biasata manasam naram atitam yewa kamesu antako kurute wasam.
Great. And finally, Oli.
Sukyoto, Bhante, and everyone.
Sukyoto.
Yeah. Upani heva pachinantang biasata manasang narang atitang yeva kamesu antako kurite wasang.
Antako
kurute wasang.
kurute wasam.
Kurute wasang.
Great. Anyone else would like to read? Anyone else? If not, we are going to go to the stanza. Okay. Upani heva pachinanta. You can see that somebody is plucking flowers here, gathering flowers, picking flowers. Pachinanta means Upani, pachinanta. So we have to take narang for the both part. Narang to the Vyasata, narang to the Upani. First line and second line. There is a man, I would say. Now there's a problem actually when most of the people, Westerners, when they translate Dhammapada, they want to go to gender neutral. It's in a world of people using gender pronouns before. So, but here the thing is that Buddha was talking in a very male-dominated society at that time. So naro, not itti. No itti there. No. Naro. And then because the society that the Buddha was living was highly dominated by the Brahmins. The Brahmins did not let other genders to involve in the sacred places, places of worship. So we don't have to worry about it. We are looking at the social, economic conditions of how the people living at that time, but we are going to capture the main idea. So Naro, let's say a human. Let's say a gender neutral pronoun here, a human, anybody. As a human who is trying to pluck flowers from a tree. So in the act of plucking, picking flowers from a tree, whereby the man, the human is not satisfied with the sort of the flowers he or she can pluck. And whenever he or she gets to see a lot of beautiful more flowers, the mind is not going to be managed enough, and the mind is taken away by that what you call fascination of plucking all these flowers, whether he needs or she needs those flowers for the garden. Probably flowers are good enough for the garden, but he or she is not stopped by that thinking, because he or she incessantly looking for the flowers. In the same way, what's happening is that humans are obsessively, incessantly driven by what you call their greed. So this Vyasatta, we normally we take it, Satta means stuck to, adhere to, addicted to, obsessed with. The what is obsessed with is to be taken in implied sense, call them karma, unnecessary sensual pleasures, unnecessary. So there are 6. So now we understand, just as a garland maker, a human definitely, is going not to be satisfied with whatever the flowers he or she is trying to pluck, although the garland is already enough with the flowers. In the same way, humans are not satisfied enough in their pursuits of acquiring, receiving, obtaining their pleasures. Most humans are. There may be a very calm enough humans in this world, like in Hinduism, right? You know, in many suttas, when the Buddha was talking about dana, he also prescribed bahira sasana. Very interesting Pali word. Bahira sasana. Now, sasana means our Buddhist order, right? Sangha, male sangha, female sangha, lay people, male, female. But when he say bahira sasana, what is that? Means outside the sasana. Our devotees are encouraged, as time permits, to think about bahira sasana, because outside our Buddhist community, there may be people who have a very good discipline in their 6 sensual pleasures. Why not? XYZ religions, but you can't find them. As time permits, our generosity has to go beyond the usual, familiar crowd as well. Because we are not giving dana, we are not engaging in generosity only with one. Generosity happens as time permits. So we have to be generous as much as we can. And we have to treat opportunity. So in the same way, we understand that there may be individuals who may have a good discipline with regard to their sensual pleasures. Sensual pleasures are not prohibited. They are not forbidden by the Buddha. Buddha cannot do that. Lay people have to engage in healthy sensual pleasures. What is prohibited? It's not prohibited. What is not suggested is that don't try to go beyond the healthy levels of your sensual pleasures. For somebody who is having 2 plates of rice, that person might say, "This is my, level of eating. I need this much rice to eat." Somebody might say, "No, I'm going to eat half of this 1 plate." So how does Buddhism say everybody should have a 1 plate of rice? That's your lunch, that's your dinner, that's your breakfast. It's not going to happen. But because people are different, humans are different, their attitudes are different, their causes and consequences are also different, and then their circumstances are also different. So therefore, we cannot say sensual pleasures are prohibited. For the monastic members, it's a different story. That part has to be understood separately. But for the lay people, that moderate, healthy balance. But the problem is, even there is such a good teaching about sensual pleasures, when people are engaging their sensual pleasures, most people, they are not able to understand the thin line between over and then, less and more, this division. Anyways, going back to the stanza again. Now, this stanza is talking something interesting beyond the previous one. Atitang yeva kamesu. Now the same human who cannot understand one's healthy boundary of one's sensual pleasures displays another problem. The problem is kamesu, with regard to the kamas, this particular person is insatiate. He or she is insatiate. Atitang. Tittang means tittang. Titta, atit. These are the two Pali words. Titta means satisfied. At least one can be happy with that level. But most humans would be atit. But be careful, this does not mean that Buddhists cannot have an ambition in their life. Or Buddhism negates, Buddhism does not agree with the world. What the Buddha says here is that there should be a healthy balance. And then calmness. If someone is not able to satisfy or maybe understand the healthy boundary of the karmas, that person is in the domain of the sphere of the Mara, death. Antako. Antako means, how do you understand Antako? Antako. Anta means end. Ko. Ko means, who is Ko? Ko is somebody, right? No, Ko is doer. The person who is ending, who is doing the ending. End doer. End doer means Mara, the one who is ending us at the end. Are we letting him to end us? That's a question. Are we letting him to end us? Or are we going to let him not understand us? That's a complicated idea about the Mara. The Mara cannot understand us at that point. So, end maker, or the person who does the end, Antaku. Another word for Mara. Mara has many words. Machu, Mara, Antako. Other words, Vasavati. There are many words. Right? The bad people come in many forms. Huh? This happens in our life. We saw in the morning, but in the evening, that person comes in a different format. We have to understand. Same person coming in different formats. So then we understand, if we are not even understanding that we have to have a certain healthy balance, don't think that Buddhism has a certain level for everybody, right? We have our own different needs. So, but regardless of what kind of differences you have, you maintain, try to have a balance in with regard to your sensual pleasures. Now, I'm asking then an interesting question here. Karma. Karma is, what does karma mean actually? Spot. Karma. How does Buddha talk about karma? Karma means, now there is a problem. Now, you know, when philosophers translate Pali into English, when generic Westerners translate Buddhist Pali words into English, or when someone who has a very heavy background from the Catholic or Christian background going to translate Pali into English, Protestant translations, we call them Protestant, like how they translated Silabbata Paramasa. What is that? Silabbata Paramasa is one of the fetters, a would-be Sotapan. Someone who is going to become Sotapan is going to own. How did they translate that? Clinging to rites and rituals. This is how they translate it. In many books, we call them Protestant translations because they don't understand Sila Bata. Sila and Bata. Sila means extreme Sila. Bata means cults. Because we have rituals. We have so many rituals in our, if you go to a temple, how many rituals are there? All are Majority, most of the events happening to protect the temple, to keep the temple going, they are rituals. But they are healthy rituals. All these ceremonies are rituals. So then what is a rite? What is a ritual? But the Pali word is sila, but the sila, extreme sila. Sila can be practiced wrongly. So that is sila. Vata means Buddhist practice can become a cult. Do we have cults in Buddhism? Do we have any, do some other Buddhists in some other countries worship the dead soldiers? Don't say the name. Yes, they do. If you go to some other countries, if you go a little bit interior of the country, you may see a lot of practices in the name of, lot of cults in the name of practice. They do exist, the way how they absorb. So here we understand what would be a good translation for karma. It cannot be desire, because desire can be a good translation for the Pali word called Chanda. This Pali word. Chanda. Chanda means, Chanda is a good one actually. But Chanda can go good and bad. Good Chanda, bad Chanda. Chanda means a healthy desire. Now, you know, in the right effort, the Buddha says, Chandang janiti viryang varabati chittam pagganhati padvayamati padahati. Chandang janiti. If you really want to practice right effort, you have to create Chanda. Chanda means skillful desire. So then the problem here is that we cannot say karma is desire. We have to say karma has to be understood from a contextual background. It's pretty much sensual pleasure. Karma is a sensual pleasure. Then, now I'm going to ask you, how many karmas are there? How did the Buddha ask us to understand karma? This is not a new thing. I already explained to you a long time ago. Homework. You already know this one actually, long time ago. Karma is twofold. Kilesa karma, vattu karma. This is how the Buddha explained these two. These are not new things. I'm just, just reminding you. Kilesa karma and vattu karma. With this two different aspects of karma, is the classification, is the understanding about karma that you've been having become more complicated? Shouldn't be complicated. It should have solved something now, by its point. Kilesa karma means subjective sensuality. When the karma becomes subjective, it is called kilesa karma. And vattu karma means karma. When the karma becomes objective, we call it objective sensuality. I think you might not understand yet. Let me explain to you. Kilesa karma. Now, time to time, without certain objects, we may come up with certain, maybe there comes certain sensual pleasure related thoughts to us. But we don't directly have a relevance to a certain sound, certain sight, certain smell, certain taste, certain touch, certain thought. It is very perpetual. At the same time, it is happening without a certain object. We call it subjective karma. But when someone is going through this subjective karma as a kilesa, we call it karma as a defilement, without not putting that as a connection to a certain specified object, person, or a thing, anything. Sometimes what is happening in that subjective experience, your personal experience about the karma, will propel you, will lead you to possess what you saw in that experience. Now, say for instance, you want to eat something that is not healthy. It's coming to you, and you know that you already had your lunch, you already had your supper or dinner, maybe breakfast. It's a random thought. Now, you are taking that karma as a subjective thing. But you cannot resist. You cannot keep it at the level of subjective level. And then what happens? It will say, no, go grab it, go buy it, go eat it. And then you are going to physically possess that particular object. Then your karma becomes a vattu karma. Vattu means objective karma. So we can look at it this way. One way is that the primary initial level of our sense pleasure, sensual pleasure arises as a kilesa karma as a subjective. Then it will go to the, if we are not doing the necessary thing, it will go to the karma as objectivity. That means vattu karma. This is one way to look at it. Another way is that when you already enjoyed a certain vattu karma, it will give rise to kilesa karma again. Because let's say you have had a very good experience about food. Now you remember all the things in that restaurant. The dish, the place, the time. You are always thinking about, now next time I should go there, right? And you had that relishing experience. So then that vattu karma gives rise to a kilesa karma. So then they are interwoven actually. They work together. But I would rather say most of the people, what they are going through is kilesa karma as a defilement. So when you are going through karma as a defilement, if it is, as you understand, karma can be a defilement if you don't understand the healthy boundary of the karma. If you are making sure that you are not going to let it happen obsessively in a way that pushes you to lobha and tanha and padana, greed, craving, and clinging, you are good. But karma as a defilement, sense pleasure, is always arising. So now we have to understand the problem is not with the karma. The problem is how are we going to deal with the karma. Right? That is the problem here. So then, if somebody understand that I can handle karma well, then that's a good thing. But what about the people who are walking away, running away from the karmas? What will happen to them one day? Are we supposed to run away, walk away from karma? Or are we healthily understand what is this karma, how to deal with it, what to do with that? A very good example, without understanding the power of the karma, someone wants to go sugar-free for 1 week without understanding the dynamics and the power of karma. And then luckily for 6 days, this person goes sugar-free, comfortable. But on the 7th day, randomly this person is going through certain thoughts that I have been sugar-free for 6 days. Now it's been some time. I want to compensate for the 6 days now. That means the 7th day is not going to be a good day. Compensating with the rest of the sugar stuff that I did not consume for the 6 days and eating all that sugary stuff on the 7th. So this means that kind of abstinence, prevention from sugary stuff was not done in a proper understanding way. That's why the Buddha said, don't be feared, rather healthily understand what are you doing with the karmas. Okay, so then kilesa karma, vattu karma, I would ask you to take it this way. Kilesa karmas are always coming to us, but at that point we have to decide whether we are going to go to the vattu karma or not. But better we healthily manage it. Then vattu karma means all the major sensual pleasures. What are they? Rupa, Saddha, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabha, Dhamma. They are the vattu karmas. So they are related to certain people and things. Someone can become very messed up when that person doesn't know how to experience those 6 objects, right? So that's the most challenging part for many people. Okay. So now there is someone who is not satisfied. The problem is not the karma. The person is not satisfied with the karmas. Let's think about a good example about somebody who is not satisfied with the karmas. Let's think about a Jataka story, very interesting Jataka story. Suvarna Hansa Jataka story. What is that? Suvarna Hansa. I think we have to look at the reference. Suvarna Hansa Jataka. Okay, Jataka 136. Can read another time. This is the 136 Jataka story. Now, in this Jataka story, we find a very interesting story. One very rural family is blessed to have a certain golden swan. This golden swan, for some other reasons, comes to that area every morning and then drops one golden feather every day, every morning. Now the family has been depending on this golden feather, but they catch it. They catch it and then they sell it. That was their main income. So the lady in the house, probably the mother, one day was telling the family members, what if the golden swan is not to come to our house one day? Nobody's working here. So what will happen to us? Then the others were also kind of panic about this statement. Yes. Then what can we do? Okay, I suggest when the golden swan comes tomorrow morning, we catch him and then remove all the golden feathers. So we may have enough golden feathers after that, although he comes or not. Do people do these things? Sometimes people are becoming very fast to get things out of, right? They become very fast to become opportunistic people. So the golden swan came to the following day morning. They removed all the feathers, but that was the last day he came. Right? So when people become very insatiated about their sensual pleasures, more harm will happen. Right? So, and finally, when someone is with unsatisfying degrees of sensual pleasures, that person is easily taken away by Mara, Antako Kurute Vasa. Actually, our inability to understand what you call our own sensual pleasures is made by Mara, the Mara's influence. Mara's influence comes to us in many ways. Say, for instance, Mara has 10 armies. Kama is the first army, first soldier, right? So there are things like that. So this is the translation of the stanza. But the more important part is today is the story of this stanza. The story goes around a lady called Pati Pujika. Actually, Pati Pujika is not a human lady. Pati Pujika was a female deva in the Tavatins. Tavatins is the second deva world. Chatu Maharajika Tavatins, Yama, Tusita, Nimmana, Rati, Pali. 6 heavens. So what happened? She was one of the wives of Malabhari Devaputta. Malabhari Devaputta was the one that she was serving, and see, he was her husband. And then they were going to pluck flowers one day with others. So while she was plucking flowers on a tree in the Tavatins, suddenly she slipped and she fell down and then she passed away. Now tell me, how do the Deva pass away? Do Devas go through accidents like humans? Car crashes, falling from the trees? Humans are very fragile, right? Are they? Humans are very fragile. I mean, they have to take care of them from many problems, health problems, accidents, earthquakes, natural problems, right? From taxing, government problem, many problems are there. They are more fragile than the devas. But how come this female deva slipped and then fell down and passed away? The problem is that her friends, other devas, they were still plucking the flowers and she passed away. Actually, nobody saw this incident. She fell down, she passed away, and she was reborn in the Savatthi, near Savatthi during the Buddha's time. And then, when she becomes 16 years old, she was married to somebody. And then, there was something interesting happened to her. When she was reborn, she had a certain knowledge because she was a deva for many lives, including the last life, that Patipujika had the ability when she was reborn, she can remember many of her past lives. How do we call in Pali this ability? Ubbe Nivasanusati Jnana. Right? We call it Ubbe Nivasa. That means Patipujika could remember where she was before. And she knew that she was the wife to this Malabari Devaputta, who was under the Sakka. And then she made a wish. I want to be the wife of the Malabari Deva again. Now think about it. Devas also want to go back to the heaven, looking for the husband. Something interesting. And then every day she was telling, now she's married now in the human life. And she's saying to the other people, I want to go back. I want to go back to the Tavatins. But people didn't believe her. She's a human woman. I think what she's saying is very absurd. People didn't believe. But because she's always talking about a husband, people call her a name. The name is Pati Pujika. Pati means husband. Pujika means worshipper, husband worshipper. Pati Pujika. Then, anyways, now Pati Pujika, at the same time, she gave birth to 4 children. Buddha was living at that time. And she started going to the temple and cleaning the places and offering dhan and all that. She was doing. She has been doing all that. And after some years, almost she spent, it is said she spent almost 50 years of that time. Not 50 years. She almost spent close to 100 years time, close to 100 at that time. And then suddenly, she has been giving dana every day, all the time. She offered dana in the morning and evenings. Out of a sudden illness, she passed away. So all the monks were very shocked. And lunchtime, she gave all the dana. And then she passed away after a couple of hours. What happened to her? The normal monks were very shocked to hear that Arahants had Dharma Sangvega. And then they wrote the news to the Buddha. This Patipujika, today lunch, she went to the temple, she gave dana, and after a couple of hours, she passed away. How come it happened? For a good person. Then the Buddha said, it is not what happened in the way you think. It is her wish. She was reborn in the Tavatins by the evening. Now the problem is, she was reborn during the time she was reborn, still her friends collecting flowers in the Tavatins. And they asked, where did you go? That means 1 day of the Tavatins is 100 years of the human birth. So they were still collecting the flowers. And then Malabari Devaputta also asked, what happened to you? Where did you disappear? She said, I passed away and I went to I was reborn in the Savatthi, the Buddha's time, and this happened, that happened, and I did a lot of good karma as well. And then I was reborn again over here. Then they were looking at the Malabari Deva, Putta and others, they were looking at within 100 years of a short time, how many people are still not satisfied with their 6 karmas. They are only spending like 100 years. That means for the Deva, it's 1 it's half of the day, right? 50 years is half of the day. And the other 50 is another half. That means from morning to evening is our 100 days. That means if you are living 100 years, that means it's just one day in the tower things. Right? So then Malabari Devaputta and all others were thinking, they're shocked to hear, with this kind of a 100 years, very, very short time, like a daytime of the tower things, how many things are humans doing? They are doing all. They are killing, stealing, sexually misbehaving, lying. Why are they doing like that? Why are they not able to understand the karmas? So they were having the discussion. At that point, the Buddha gave this Dhamma talk to the monks with regard to Patipujika. Now, it is said in the story, Patipujika story, that Patipujika had practiced 54 kusalas. But the commentary or the story never say what they are. But when you look at Abhidhamma, under the Dhammasangani Pakarana, you see that there are 54 kusala activities. But they are a little bit deep things. But what we understand is that Patipujika was able to practice certain important good qualities in her life. That's how she was able to be removed. Okay, now what are we going to learn from this story? One thing is that sansaric relationships. This is number one. In our sansaric life, we are creating healthy and unhealthy relationships. Remember the Kali Yakkini story? There was a house where there were two ladies were in anger, and then they passed away, and then the hatred traveled for many, many lives. In the same way, good people also go through a lot of life, right? So that means sansarically, we are carrying lots of relationships, connections. But we are reborn in different shapes, different formats. Now think about, in many Jataka stories, we understand the Buddha and Devadatta. Devadatta, the monk Devadatta was always inimical to the Buddha. And Venerable Ananda was a part of the story. Venerable Sariputta was a part of the story. Right? So in that way, sansarically, a lot of things are going from here to the next part. So that means we have to have very healthy relationship. We don't have to create any problems with regard to the connection, friendships, family, and relationships. That is number one. Number two is that how to understand karma in our life in a better way. Now, perhaps we can think about the Buddha's idea about karma, other than the Kilesa karma and Vaktu karma. What are the other places where Buddha used the Pali word karma? Think about the very, very basic places. Pancha Nivarana. What is that? 5 hindrances. What are 5 hindrances, and what is the format of 5 hindrances? When you practice meditation, actually, even when you look at Hindu people, when they practice jhanas, the first thing that they are going to overcome is, under the 5 hindrances, is Kama Chand. Kama Chand means your desire for the kamas. So they are going to subdue the kamas. We have to subdue it. And then, what are the other contexts of kama? Where else have you found out kama? Kama Chanda, and then Kama Raga. Kama Raga means, I think I have to write down. Some of you might not know. First context is Kama Chanda. Kama Chanda. We call it sense desire. And then now we just talk about Kama Raga. This is mostly lust. And number 3 is Kama Tanha. This is another tanha. Craving with regard to sensual pleasures. Okay, so there are many areas to look at with regard to kama. Now, kama raga is the lust. That means the what you call when the kama becomes more intense with regard to the body, call it kama raga. And then kama tanha, when your kama becomes a tanha, that means kama can go to many areas, right? Kama can become a normal kama, kama can become a lust, kama can become a tanha. Right? So how to understand kama as a tanha? What is tanha actually? What do we mean by tanha in Buddhism? Craving. The Buddha said tanha means the strong version of lobha, right? The strong version of lobha. Lobha means greed. That means without having greed, you will never go to craving. How do we know whether we have craving or not? We have a condition, we have a situation where we think we cannot go beyond in terms of pleasures, sensual pleasures. We are not even able to negotiate one's own sensual pleasures. You always think you must enjoy it, even in the absence of that particular thing, particular person. Right? Things have gone out of control in your life. So this is called kama tanha. And that means karma can work in many ways. Now, let's take Pancha Nivarana, 5 hindrances. How do we see karma in the 5 hindrances? What are the 5 hindrances? Kamachanda, sense desire. Then Vyapada, ill will. Then Tina meter, slow and topo. That means laziness in our thoughts and mental factors, chitta cetasika. And Uddacha Kukucha means restlessness in our thoughts, and then remorse, and finally Vichikicha. Vichikicha means doubts. If you have a doubt about them, you should ask. You never know what will happen to us. Right? If you don't ask, then you carry the doubt to the next life. Then you won't be able to find out a monastic. You won't be able to find out anybody at that point. You are always thinking who to ask because you can't find out those people. That's why it's better to ask and sort it out about the problem. So we understand that these 5 hindrances are coming in front of us towards our senses and incapacitate our understanding about insight, about what's happening. So karma is one of them if we don't deal with it in the proper way. So that is one perspective. Kama raga, as you understand, definitely we should have healthy understanding about karma and kama tanha. So what are the other stories and other teachings about karma that we see in the text? We have to understand that karma and karma are two different things. Karma and karma. Now, if you go to the story of Patipujika, now Patipujika's story, we understand something interesting. She had a sankhara uppatti. This is something we find out in the story. Sankhara uppatti. What is it? Sankhara uppatti means rebirth by aspiration. And there's a sutta for that, Sankhara Uppatti Sutta for that. You can see Majjhima Nikaya is 120. Okay. Sankhara, not SN, SA type. So, what is the possibility for someone to aspire to become a deva and to be reborn as a deva? Now, Patipujika's story, she really wanted to become reborn in the heaven. Now, what is the problem over here? Now we know a lot of things in the Dhamma. We know that we should not expect the becoming, right? We call it bhavatanha, right? Bhavatanha means we should not expect bhava, becoming. But there are some teachings, as Patipujika's story tells us, that there were people that who really wanted to become as such. In this story is as such. And what about the Nakula Mata, Nakula Pita suttas? The both of them want to be reborn together as well. So that means those aspirations can work out. But there is a problem. The problem is you never know what will happen to you after you become a deva when you pass away. Do we know where we are heading? Because there are some stories, some devas, after they passed away, they directly went to the hell. That's quite terrible, right? When they pass away from the heaven, that means they have done a very high and good karma. And at the same time, lying under that, they had done certain very, very bad karmas. So once the good karmas as a deva got exhausted, they directly went to the hell. Then the problem is we being switched between heaven and hell. And then that is not a good guarantee. That's why the Buddha said it's better to look for becoming a Sotapanna while you are enjoying life. That's a very good part to think about. As I always say, if you don't become a Sotapanna, at least you die with the thought of becoming a Sotapanna. At least. And then your last thought will have that thought. Think about it. That means your last thought is about enlightenment, Noble Eightfold Path. You may have not become enlightened in this life, but the last thought has the enlightenment perspective. Sammaditi. What if that someone is dying? I want to be reborn in that place and this place. Is it a wholesome thought? Is it a bhavatan? The problem is that you will not suffer because you have done good karma. But you will go somewhere, you'll be happier. But one day that happiness will be used up. It will be used up by your own time. Now think about, what do the books say about the Tavatinsa's time? They say Tavatinsa Devas live almost 1,000 years as such, almost closer to 36 million years from the human life. And what's happening after that? They have to pass away from there. Where are they heading? Are they going to be reborn in the same place? Not all the time. They will be reborn elsewhere. The only lucky person in the Tavatinsa is the god Sakka. Why? The god Sakka was a Sotapan. He's a lucky person. But the others are roaming around. Right? They are roaming, they come here and they go back, come here, go back. But god Sakka was a Sotapan. So then he has no problem with regard to that. Right? So that means even you become a Deva, there comes the same problem once again. You'll be happy for a certain time and then you will be switching to any life according to what you have been doing. So it's better to be on the safer side. So in this discussion, we have to always also understand about the Devas. Now, Devas were not happy when the Buddha talks about anicca, the change. Why they are not happy? Because they always thought that they are eternal and things are eternal and everything is fixed for their life. So Deva life, now you think about some of the stories, interesting story. There was one man who pranked his friend by hiding friend's clothes while he was having a bath in a river. The person who did the prank to the person was a good person too. As a result of this embarrassment he caused to the friend, he was reborn as a Deva without clothes, naked Deva. It's pretty embarrassing to be in heaven without clothes. So everybody was looking at a naked Deva has come today. It has never happened in the heaven. Then that means it's a problem, right? It's something very interesting. What about the Manduka Deva? there was a frog. One elderly person was watching the Buddha from afar near Jetavanaram. At that time, he was using a walking stick, and there was a frog there. It is said that at that time, animals used to talk, right? Don't know what happened to them. Sometimes after they lost their verbal communication, for whatever the reason. But the frog, it is said in the story, frog was hearing something from the Buddha, and then the elderly man's walking stick was pushed to the frog. Frog passed away. Immediately he became a Manduka Deva Buddha. And after becoming a Manduka Deva Buddha, he was also listening, continuing the Dhamma's talk at that time. See, that means it's pretty interesting to look at it. But the problem is, Deva world is a part of Anicca. So when we are doing things, when we are, I would say, looking for Deva's blessings, we do that. But our aim, our goal has to be on the Noble Eightfold Path aspects. But Patipujika's story tells us that sansaric relationships do exist. They do exist in whatever way. And at the same time, how did the Devas look at what you call human world in that kind of a very what you call interesting way? Because Deva always looked at human world, that why these humans are really struggling for 100 years, right? So that's something interesting. Okay, if you have any questions you may ask, then we will continue throughout any other lens of the calm. Any questions so far? I think you don't seem having questions so far. Now let's go back to the karma again. Please show today's stanzas. Okay, let's go and take a look again. Uppani heva pachinantang vyasat manasangharam atittang eva kamesu antako gurute vasam. Okay, this is the stanza. I think we can look at this atittang again. Atittang, as I said earlier, not being able to satisfy in life. Where are the other places from which we learn about this particular part? Do we find similar information from other suttas like Karaniyamitta Sutta? Do we learn something about satisfaction in the Karaniyamitta Sutta? If so, what is that place? In the first three stanzas, we understand Karaniyamitta Sutta presents 15 skillful habits. Out of those 15 skillful habits, we know there's one skillful habit about satisfaction. How do we call it? Sakko ujuja sujuja, suachu chasamudu anatimani, santussako. Santussako, yes. But santussako does not literally mean satisfaction. Because we might be satisfied, then again we will be dissatisfied. Dukkha arises from the satisfaction, right? Not from anywhere else, right? Say, for instance, the people who can hurt you most are the people who you are living with, right? Not the other people in outside the house, right? They are the people who, it should be okay. I wish that everything is going well with you. But anytime this can happen to anybody else. Why is it then? Happiness is the place which can give us the pain. That means our happiness has to be properly maintained in the proper way. So, santussako can be rather translated as content. In English, we know satisfaction and content are two different levels. We can be satisfied, right? but we may not be content with it. Contentment and satisfaction, they are two areas, two levels, right? People can guarantee that you will be satisfied, but nobody can guarantee we are content about it. Right? So that means, how are we looking for our contentment in our life? What are the ways that we can do it? What are the ways we can find out our own contentment? You may think about certain things. I think it's a very big topic in today's world, today's life. Lots of people think that contentment comes to us by becoming a minimalist. Do they? Do many people think like that? By being a minimalist. What did the Buddha say? Did the Buddha ask us to become a minimalist? Or did the Buddha ask us to just go the way how we earn, how we live, but try to be careful in terms of your cravings, clingings, greed levels, right? Is the problem with the things that we have, or is the problem with the attitude, the sort of mental states that we are attributing to that particular thing? The problem is the mental state that we are creating for that. You don't have to have big things. Even you can have craving even for a small thing. What are the examples? I think the very popular example I always tell you. There was a monk who passed away during the Buddha's time, and other monks were going to cremate him. The Buddha said, "Don't cremate him." And then those monks asked the Buddha, "Why are you saying not to cremate? He already passed away. We cannot keep him in the temple." Because the monk had a craving for his robe. So he's coming back now as a monk. So you don't need lots of things to have craving. Even the robe is also enough. Right? So the problem is not with the stuff we have, very expensive ones or inexpensive ones, spiritual things. It's not the problem. The problem is the mental states that we've been cultivating towards that particular thing or the person. Then that's how it happened. The monk only had the robe. So he was always looking at the robe, and he slowly developed a certain craving, right? Normally, we create craving, develop craving for the things around us, things that we are doing all the time. There are so many stories like that. Say, for instance, there was another monk called, what was his name? He had a very good life, I mean, very ethical, good life. But one day, he broke a certain branch of a tree. He didn't expect that. He saw that something happened. So this particular experience popped up in his mind over the course of time. He passed away. Even the thought that I could have done it better, I could have not broken that branch of the tree, popped up in his mind, and he passed away. He passed away in a thought that I could have done, I could have avoided, I shouldn't have done. He had lots of shouldn't haves, couldn't haves, could haves actually. And then he became a very big cobra in the same monastery. Very interesting. That means when you have should haves, could haves, and you die, and don't ask me where you might be heading. Because you have a self-hatred that you are creating for your. Sometimes they are very small things, you don't even count for them. Now, when you are managing your money, sometimes you don't even you don't count certain things. You don't count them. When you are doing good things, are you doing counting for that? Sometimes not, right? You are not going to account them sometimes. So the idea here is that when you have a self-hatred during the moment you die, that can give you a very terrible experience for the next life. That's why the Buddha says always, be happy with what you have, let go of the bad experiences. Always try to bring that contentment, happiness with everyone. But this is not guaranteed. This is a personal skill, a personal ability. Although you know a lot of suttas, it won't happen. Although you don't know suttas, it won't happen either. So then how can we make sure that this is happening? You have to be someone who practice Dhamma by effortless effort. Very interesting point. Your practice has to be an effortless effort. Why do I say so? In today's world, we know that the idea of practicing Dhamma in a hard way is a little bit not appreciated. It's like that from morning to evening. Today I have to practice meditation. I should do this. I have to be very careful. I have to, cover my mouth. I'm a very bad person. I can gossip. I can say bad things to other people. I gotta be very careful. This might stress you out the whole day. But when you understand the core of Buddhism, your practice will naturally happen. Those visceral things go away. You don't have to have a struggle in the practice. So then effortless effort will naturally arise, and you by default, you are in the practice. Now, many people, not at the beginning. At the beginning, yes, you will do some extra effort. But even in the middle of their life, even after knowing Dhamma for many, many years, they still have a very challenging, struggling Dhamma life. Why is it? Their practice is not by default. Their practice is by effort from morning to evening. That's not necessary. That's why we have to bring this idea that forgive yourself, practice Brahma Viharas for yourself, Metta to you first, Karuna to you first, Mudita to you first, Upekha to you first, and then to other people. Right? Who is thinking every day, every morning, every day, may I be kind? Rather than why people are not kind to me. Yeah? This is the question. This is the question all the time. When you say why, that means you are miserable. Because you have, because people are different time to time. That's why the philosophers, they go through this problem. The more they are looking at things from why perspective, and then they will ambiguously look at the question. Yes, that's a philosophical answer. But one day they understand, people understand, in the pure silence, when you give yourself to the heart, solutions are there. Solutions are within your heart, not from outside, not from creating questions as why not? Say, for instance, someone who is diagnosed with a cancer, thinking, why me? And then nobody answers you. And you cannot find the answer to. And all of a sudden, after some time, you come to the point, why not me? I'm a universal part of this universal experience. I have to go through this. I embrace this, but I'm going to get better. I'm going to bounce back. This inspiration. So all these are happening with that effortless effort. So that's why I'm trying to say that even when it comes to the experience of karma, by understanding your healthy levels, at the same time, understanding yourself, and then putting the right effort without being driven by so much challenging, struggling practices, you will make this journey with healthy karmas. And we have so many examples, like such as Visakha, Anathapindika, Santati, even think about how does the god Sakka maintain his Sotapanna state while being a Deva? Devas are more to the pleasures, right? How does he maintain it? And Devas sometimes have to, struggle with other Asuras as well. I will tell you, a moment of Sakka Sotapanna state. One day, there was an Asura came to the Deva world, a devil, a demon actually. And then he sat down on the Sakka seat. And everybody was shocked. How come you sat down in the seat? This is belong to our Sakka, our head god. Then every time they were complaining to this demon, how come you do so? You should you should get out of this place. You should really vacate this scene. Every time the other devas in the Tavatins complaining to him, that deva was growing in splendor and happiness. Then everybody was shocked. This demon has been doing something wrong. On top of that, he is becoming more beautiful, more beautiful, more beautiful. Then they immediately went to Sakka and said, "Dear Lord, this demon has taken over your seat." And he came. Sakka came. You know what Sakka did? He's a very wise person, Sotapanna person. He fell down at the feet of this demon. And then he asked in a kind language, "Dear demon, we are very kind to you. We appreciate you." The moment that Sakka starts to appreciate the demon's pleasantness went away. He became the demon. So he knew how to talk to an angry, anger-eating demon. Actually, that particular demon or a devil was an anger-eating person. Do we have people who are eating anger all the time, morning to evening? Then don't stress them up. Don't spice up conversations with those people. The more you spice up the conversations, they become more angry and they become more happy someday. So that's why we understand Sakka as a Sotapanna person with the head Deva understood how to deal with people. That is, when you become a Sotapanna, even in the heaven, you have a certain different Dhamma-friendly way how you operate. So going back to the story again and the stanza again, this stanza says, just as a garland maker is not happy by making a garland with certain flowers, he's incessantly going after flowers and flowers. In the same way, a human who has no understanding the healthy levels, healthy boundaries of flowers, the karmas, would end up in the hand of the Mara. So the advice here is that it does not demonize karmas. The Buddha never demonized karmas. Buddha never said karmas are such things that you have to walk away. But Buddha said there are dangers. There are dangers. Like how we advise somebody about potential dangers. Having understood the dangers, deal with the karmas. Buddha never negate the world. Buddha never go against the world. But the Buddha says that understand the world in front of you, behind you, within you, and then deal with it, with the things. How to deal with the karma? Understanding one's healthy level of karma. Don't become obsessed. Don't become infatuated. Don't become driven by the karmas. And you can manage your karma. Don't let karmas manage you. That is the plan. But Patipujika's story is connected here because Patipujika told other devas, dear devas, I spent 100 years in the human world. That means exactly one day. Actually, one day of the Sakka world, Tavatinsa world, I came back. But still these humans are struggling with their own unnecessary satisfactions. They are going after them. So we have to pity on them. We were thinking how to pity on the humans and understanding there are better places to think about and be enlightened. All right, any questions? I think we have a question from Pali.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Bhante, this very interestingly, Sila Vata Paramasa, Bhante, you talk about cults and it's not really rites and rituals, is it? I mean, there's not
rites and rituals. Actually, rites and rituals is a Protestant translations made by the early European scholarship, especially 18th, 19th century. And they translate, actually, we have to thank them. At least they brought the books from Sri Lanka to London, and then they brought them in the books. So far, there were no books in Sri Lanka. They were in Ola manuscript. But the problem is that they were British officials. They did not understand the Pali. They translated closer to the Bible, Holy Bible. And they thought that Silapata means rites and rituals. So, but when you see the Silabbata Paramasa Pali word, Sila means extreme Sila, bad Sila. What is that? That means when you practice Sila, you have to always understand you should never end up in Sila. What does it mean? There are people who think that Sila is the only thing. I have to do, start over, continue, and then only Sila. They never know this journey has 3 parts, Samadhi and then Panya. So where are you going to practice Samadhi and Panya? In the next world? Are you sure you're going to be a human? Where are you going to practice it? So this, our Dhamma journey has 3 things, 3 stages. That means when you practice Sila, keeping the Sila, you have to go to Samadhi. Not only do the Sila. So when you only do the Sila, you will create certain absurd, abnormal Sila activity. Say for instance, we would say Panatipata. Now Panatipata recept as a discipline. There are certain challenges. How to practice Panatipata when your house is full of mosquitoes. Now think about it. You might think a very quick solution. You might call the pest control and ask, come and do something. But rather than that, how to practice not killing? This is number 1. And the other thing, there are so many things. How can I avoid this? So then we are looking at the practical side of not killing. And then we are also practicing not stealing, not sexually misbehaving, not lying. And what about the food and beverage? Not only alcohol, any food, any drink. So then when you are moderately practicing, moderately means you know the level of practice. You are not going to be very extreme, like the Jains. What did the Jains tell the devotees, the Jainas? They told the devotees, actually they have the bad seal. The Niganta Nathabuddha's philosophy. They said, you never drink water from the rivers and lakes. Why? There are tiny, unseen animals in the water. So Mahavira, Niganta Nathabuddha or Mahavira asked followers, next time you draw water from the lakes and rivers, you have to boil it. But they didn't know when you are boiling, you are killing tiny bacteria, microbacteria. Now then if you take it to the Buddhist part, you can never boil water in your house. What is going to happen? You can't even give a tea to a guest visitor who is coming over to your house. We are not that unwise, that extreme. We are not going to kill the microorganism over there. What about you have a cough, you have a flu, and when you go there to the doctor's place, doctor say you are affected by a virus, right? And then we have to give you some medication. But you say, I'm a Buddhist, I cannot kill anybody. Yeah? Are you going to kill my virus? Who is more important, virus or you? Then you think about it, you judge about it. That's why Buddhism is looking at all these challenges with regard to not killing moderately, with a wise mind. Not that, okay, virus is an organism. I cannot do that. Cancer, somebody has a cancer. No, I cannot kill them. It's living organism. So then you have to let yourself die. That is Panatipata as well. Why? When you kill yourself, that is also Panatipata, suicide. Because you are letting yourself kill. You cannot do that. You have to take care of you. At the same time, you are looking at the greater good of the story. Greater good. Not the good. Greater good of the story. Greater good of any phenomenon, any experience. So then going back to the Pali word. Sila Bhata Parama. Sila Vat. Sila means extreme Sila. Those kind of very unwise ways of looking at Sila must be stopped. Sotapanna will never do that. And Vata means cults. I don't want to actually pick up cults because there may be certain people affected. There are so many cults in many Buddhist countries. You will see in your own eyes whether they are necessary or not, but you don't need to comment on them. They are part of their culture. So a Sotapanna will never turn to stick to extreme Sila and then cults. Does it make sense?
I think what is exactly cults in the sense or worshipping or following of a
A
human.
cult means the practice has no direction to the path, Sila Samadhi Panya path. That becomes a cult. Now, say for instance, we cannot pick up examples. It might affect somebody. So I mean, like if you look at any practice in the name of any cult in the name of practice, what they are doing, what is the purpose of doing that, right? Think about a very good example. I tell you, the 17th century in Sri Lanka. At that time, in Sri Lanka, didn't have monks wearing robes. 17th century, not that long ago. It's pretty long ago, actually. That means now, yeah, almost like 5-6 centuries before. What happened? All the monks died out. They say the monks in Sri Lanka, they changed to Sukhothai period in Thailand, Ayutthaya time. And then what happened? The monks, the so-called monks who left in Sri Lanka were hybrid monks. So they were living in the house for some time in the morning, and then they were married, have children, and they were going to the temple in the evening and then do the puja, come back home. So we call them Ganinasi monks. Now at that time, if you read the books, when somebody passed away, these monks are invited. There are no other monks. When that monk goes to the house, they give the Dhamma talk, 7-day Dhamma talk. And then they have a habit, they have to sleep on the same bed of the person who passed away. They were telling people, if the monk doesn't sleep on that bed of the deceased person, the soul of the deceased person will come back to your house, can affect you. This is one thing. So people believe. And also they told something similar to your Chinese practice. When somebody passed away, you have your prayers, right? You put food, different food that the deceased person liked. They said, before the dana, giving us dana, you have to create a small hut in front of the house, put everything what he or she liked. So they made the person who passed away a peta, a real ghost. Maybe the person was already born in the heaven, maybe as a human. I'm not talking about Chinese culture. I'm talking the thing happened. So this is a cult. This has no connection to the text. This has no connection to our understanding about transferring good karmas. Why you self-identify your father was a ghost now? Why you self-identify your mother was a ghost? Maybe she was reborn somewhere better than this. So they were creating. In the same way, there are so many such minor major cults that are happening even in today's world.
It's okay, Bhante, we Chinese burn hell bank notes, so we think all our relatives go to hell.
I better not comment on that. You know what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Bhante,
Okay. Any other questions?
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, someone yes. We'll take maybe two
Okay.
questions.
Does the simile of gathering flowers always refer to sensual pleasures in all the Dhammapadas?
No.
No, okay.
We discussed something good about flowers too, remember?
Yeah.
We discuss just like a garland maker is picking flowers, someone has to pick up the kusala activities.
Okay.
There are faded flowers, bad flowers, some flowers don't have petals. In that way, when we are trying to become good people, we have to collect good things in our life. In the same way, we have to collect like how someone is collecting good flowers. Now, that's why I'm telling you, flowers can be regarded as good things and bad things in the Pupava. It can go in both ways.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
If you have one more question, we can. Yes, Jen.
Yeah, Bhante, in the last sentence, kurute, can you explain the meaning of kurute in this context?
Okay, kurute is a type of tense. Now, different what you call verbal structures in Pali. Now, kurute means may do, you may understand, may. That means if you are not satisfied enough, if you are not content with your sensual pleasures, you may be under the domain of the Mara. You may. Yes, kurute. Normally we say karoti, karonti, but kurute means may. Sometimes we say that you may go through certain problems. That not that you go through certain problems. So you may, kind of a nice way of giving that idea.
Oh, okay. Noted. Thank you, Bhante.
Yes. Right. Yes. Any other questions about today?
Bhante, just like to add to the Sila bit.
Yeah.
I've heard one monk say it very nicely. Sila is not the Buddha Dharma, but without Sila there is no Dharma. Can we look at it that way? As part, is that one view? Like
Sila is not Buddha Dhamma,
yeah, Sila
and
doesn't
without
equal
Sila there is no Buddha Dhamma.
Yes.
That's a paradox to me, actually. Initially, it's a paradox, philosophical paradox. I mean, you are saying two stories. It's like a tautology paradox. That means this is not true, this is true. I mean, the problem is that how do we understand this kind of thing? We have to go to the text. You see that Sila is the starting point. Without Sila, we cannot do even a meditation. We cannot do Dana. But understand, Sila is the starting point, but shouldn't be the ending point in our life. With the Sila, we have to go to the Samadhi. With the Samadhi and Sila, we have to go to the Panya. Finally, Sila, Samadhi, Panya to be practiced together simultaneously. So that kind of idea is not what we see in the text. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, I think with that, let's transfer the good karmas. And I would like to say that next week we are not having the class. We are again going to resume our class on February 6th. I wish you a very happy time with your daily activities. So at this point, may all the good karmas that we've been making so far by understanding karma and how to understand karma and all these teachings be transferred to all the departed ones who passed away in the name of all of us. May they be well and happy. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nirvana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idammi jnati nangho sukita huntu jnatayo. Idammi jnati nangho sukita huntu jnatayo. Idammi jnati nangho sukita huntu jnatayo. Devanaga Maitika. Just as we understood the Devas' nature, their function, how they work, but they are still more powerful beings than humans. So we would like to share all the good karmas with Devanaga Mahindika. May they receive all these good karmas. May they protect and bless all of you for good health, quality of life, prosperity, safety, especially during these festive seasons. May your trips, your company with your family members, loved ones, everything go well. May you be always secure and supported by their help, their blessings, and all that. May they also be well and happy. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavata cha amhehi samvatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata cha amhehi samvatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata cha amhehi samvatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha Chanumata Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumuditva Chirang Brahma Usasana Akasattha Chanumata Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumuditva Chirang Brahma Tudesana Akasattha Chanumata Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumuditva Chirang Brahma Tumantaranti Chirang Rakhant Tvang Sadhati. Dhammavish, our Dhammavish is to be surrounded with Kalyana Mitras all the way to Nibbana. May the accomplishment of Kalyana Mitras continue. We have the Buddha as the first point of interest towards the Kalyana Mitra friendship, and then we wish may we be surrounded a lot of Kalyana Mitras in this samsaric journey. If we are continuing from this point onwards. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagam satang samagamuhu yavani bala patya. Finally, may all the good karmas that we've been making today, by understanding, discussing about karma and two types of karmas and how they work and how to understand karma, how to deal with karmas, may all these good karmas that we created over these teachings be supportive and help for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu. Abhivadana silis nichang vadha pachayino chattaru dhamma vadhanti ayuvanu sukham balam ayurarogya sampatti sakha sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati samichyatu sadhu sadhu sadhu. With that blessings, I would like to wish you a happy Chinese New Year. At the same time, wishing you a pleasant evening. Good night, everyone. Seeing you on February 6th.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
Thank
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
Good night, Bhante.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy
everyone.
Chinese New Year to
Take care.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Happy New
Bhante.
Year, brother and sisters. Okay. Good to see Bhante here. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. See you. Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you.